Well, we're interviewing you outside your law office because your partner is doing something inside, so we'll have to compete with the traffic noise, but I think you can speak up loud enough.
Sure.
So, Brett Phelps, I want to start, I want to ask you all the usual questions probably, but I want to start with something that I remember when we met, the only time we met. I thought this was funny. I said to you that I thought your picture, your campaign picture at the time was rather stern looking for a friendly guy. And you said that was that was a choice, a PR choice. Tell me about that. I notice you got a more friendly picture on your sign now.
Yeah, so that was a thoughtful decision that we made to use the more serious face, frankly, because district attorney is a serious position, and it's serious issues that we're dealing with. People that know me see me smiling a lot, and that side of me is pretty well known. So I wanted to make sure to get across that I also am taking the campaign seriously and really the position. But as you said, we did make a strategic choice to mix it up with some of our new signs now that are I guess probably a little more representative of my day-to-day demeanor.
Yeah. So you wouldn't say, which was my perception, you wouldn't say you wanted to come across as strong and vindictive or anything in those pictures. They were a little scary.
No, that definitely was not the intention. That's not
Okay.
what I see the role
Okay.
of the office to be.
Okay, good. That was just my thought. So let's start with something standard. Tell me about your background, personally, educationally, professionally, where you're from, and what you've been doing, so on.
Sure. So I grew up in Farmington, New Mexico. Graduated there from Farmington High School, and moved out this way to the Mora area in 2010. The reason that I came out this way was to attend graduate school at New Mexico Highlands University.
Oh yeah,
So,
I've heard of it.
So yeah, it was a great program. So I did the graduate English program,
Oh, good.
and ended up graduating with a master's in English. Loved it out here in Mora, Las Vegas, the whole area. Really enjoyed it out here. So when I went off to law school, went and did that at UNM. At the time, my wife was back here in Mora, and she was kind of holding down the fort for us at home. We have a little farm up in the Canyoncito, La Cueva area, and so she was holding down the fort there. I went off to law school at UNM, and actually she was working as a teacher at the Mora Independent Schools at that time, at the middle school, and she was actually the teacher of my now law partner, Michael Aragon, his
Wow.
children.
Oh, wow.
And so that was how I ended up actually getting hooked up with Mike, was through my wife and her teaching his kids. He offered me an internship my first summer after law school, and so I came out here, worked with him that summer, had a blast. He really kind of turned me loose, got me into court from day one. And so the bulk of what I did with him that summer, and what I continue to do now, is contract public defender work.
Oh.
So we represent largely people who have been charged with crimes who can't afford an attorney. And so in bigger areas across the state, they'll have an entire office dedicated to that, a public defender's office. But out in the more rural areas, the law office of the public defender actually contracts with private attorneys. So we are a private firm.
Okay.
Michael has been doing it for over 20 years now, and I've been out here with him since 2017. Have an active caseload of several hundred cases, everything from petty misdemeanors.
You mean at any given time, several hundred?
At any given time,
Wow.
and that's everything from petty misdemeanors, dogs running at large, to attempted murder, drug trafficking, armed robbery, first-degree felony.
So would you say you're
type cases.
understaffed here in that way?
Well, I think it's an issue with public defenders across the state. Really, I think comparatively we are probably pretty close to there's a lot of lawyers in similar situations now statewide. I do think there is a shortage of people that are to represent indigent clients. And that's not only in criminal law, that's really, particularly in the rural areas of the state, there's just a shortage of lawyers in all areas of the law.
Okay. So, do you have kids, by the way?
I do not.
Okay.
I have a dog and a cat.
Okay. So, on to the usual question, why are you running? How would you approach this job differently from how you feel your opponent might do it or how it's been done?
Great question. So as a public defender, I really see every day how our system is working and frankly how it's not working. The ways that it's really coming up short, particularly in dealing, with the most vulnerable members of our society. So particularly people dealing with mental health issues or substance abuse issues, addiction, and those type of things.
You're talking about the perpetrators or the victims or both?
Well, both, frankly. Frankly, it's not unusual for somebody to at one time be a defendant and at another time also be a victim, or to be a witness to a crime and involved in those kind of things. So that's something to keep in mind as well in terms of how to approach the role of the prosecutor in the office. Number one, the number one main goal.
And you are the district attorney is the prosecutor.
That is correct. Yes,
Okay.
the chief prosecutor, the head law enforcement officer for in this case Mora, San Miguel, and Guadalupe counties. And so really what I would like to see is addressing the root causes of crime. The way our system is running now. If you arrest someone and hold them in jail for several months or send them to prison for a couple years without addressing any of the root causes of what led them into that position, they're going to come out worse off than they were when they went in, and society's not going to be any better off. Our communities are not going to be made safer. And so what I would like to do is really increase the use of treatment and diversion programs to get people help for mental health and substance abuse issues, but two, to really use the district attorney's office as a tool to redirect people who have been arrested into employment or education. And those are some of the things that I really see lacking in the office right now.
Well, do you have any reservations about forcefully prosecuting someone who, you feel has done a murder, for instance, and really been rightly charged?
So, in terms of whether I would, using the full force of the office to prosecute is absolutely part of the job, right? And really, what it comes down to, regardless of what the crime committed is how are we going to address this situation to enhance or protect public safety, right? And there's very few individuals, I think, who just can't be in society, frankly. That's where we look at incarceration as a means to protect public safety. But largely, people that go to prison are going to be coming out one day. And so to just so I think there's ways to deal with these issues beyond strictly incarceration, right? There's other ways to hold people accountable. Mm-hmm. And that's something that I want to be very clear on, is that when I talk about these diversion or ending mass incarceration, that's not to say that we don't want to hold people accountable for what they've done. What we want to do is look at ways to hold people accountable that really actually improve public safety.
Yeah, the full range of options.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, I have a couple, one or two sort of side questions, just essay questions to throw at you, see what your thoughts are.
Sure.
I had this experience some years ago, decades ago really. There was a attorney here named Leon Karolitz who later became a judge. And I was talking to him just privately one day, and he was kind of complaining about, and this is kind of a rough district, historically anyway, Guadalupe, Mora, San Miguel. And he said it was distressing to him to come he was from the Midwest or something. It was distressing to him to see the degree to which here somebody might say, well, I don't want to testify because, I'm afraid of what might happen to me. And he said, if you don't feel that you can testify freely in this freest, most law-abiding country, we're really in trouble. And I've always thought about that. And I thought about that the other day because in connection with putting up a lawn sign for somebody, I won't say who exactly, it doesn't really matter. Somebody said, well, I don't want to put up a lawn sign for somebody the wrong person, and then I'm going to be on the wrong side of the person who wins, and so on. And I found that equally kind of distressing, sort of the same thought. I wonder what your thought is on that general idea.
So that's a big one, right? There's a few different parts to that. So one thing that I would say, in terms of just looking at big picture, as a way to approach these cases is the concept of restorative justice and allowing an alternative avenue for victims of crime to confront their offenders, to confront the people who have wronged them. Because frankly,
You're talking about a procedure that's sort of gaining some ground nationally these days.
Exactly, it is. There's a lot of other jurisdictions that have implemented these restorative justice practices, and that's a way that people can confront people who have wronged them, right? Without having to do it in a courtroom setting under oath and frankly subject to cross-examination from defense attorneys, because what I see happening too often is that people walk away from a case when it's said and done, and victims don't feel a sense of closure or justice, right? Maybe they did get to testify, but the way that you're limited in that testimony in a courtroom setting, in a trial setting, really just doesn't allow people to fully kind of come to terms with addressing the person who has wronged them. So I think looking at these restorative justice practices as a way to sort of address that very real issue that frankly people even if they're not scared of retaliation, testifying under oath and being subject to cross-examination from attorneys is not a fun thing to do. And to have to relive that trauma in front of a judge, in front of jurors, in front of a public court setting, is not going to help these victims heal, and really come to terms with what's happened to them. So I think that is a very real issue in terms of people concerned of retaliation or that type of thing. And I think that there's ways to address that can help victims heal, can help them confront their offenders. Outside of the traditional courtroom setting.
Okay. Well, that's a good answer. That addresses a lot of what I was asking. I think we've covered a lot of ground here. Maybe we should just end with reminding people when is the vote and where is the vote and what is the recommended procedure in these times of the plague here and so on.
Sure. So our Democratic primary, which I'll be running in, is June 2nd. Here in New Mexico. Okay. And the New Mexico Supreme Court recently ruled that there will be in-person voting on that day.
Okay.
However, what the Secretary of State and what our campaign is also encouraging is for people to vote by mail, to vote absentee. So, according to the Supreme Court ruling, county clerks should be sending out to all eligible voters an application for an absentee ballot.
Okay.
So it's a little bit of a process to vote absentee, but what you do is you'll get an application, you fill it out, you send it back in, and then they will actually mail you the ballot. So ballots will be getting mailed out starting May 5th. That's also when early voting starts.
Okay.
And you can also apply for that absentee ballot online at the Secretary of State's website.
Okay. And how about calling the local county clerk?
You can also call your local county clerk and apply for an absentee ballot over the phone.
Okay. And do you have a website where people, or a way for people to be in touch with you if they want to ask you things or support your campaign? Or
Yes, so our website is Brett Phelps 4DA, all spelled out.
Yeah.
Brett Phelps 4DA.com.
Okay, cool.
We also have a Facebook page where we are staying up to date on what we have going on. That's also Brett Phelps for DA.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you. And I want to end by showing that even though it was not necessary, you put on these beautiful shoes and completely dressed up for this interview. Okay, thanks.
Sure thing. Thank you so much. And I just ask everyone for your vote on June 2nd. Thank you.
Thank you.